Hello, welcome to the Healthy Enterprise Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. If this is your first time, welcome. If you are a returning listener, well, thank you very much for coming back. And I have a treat for you today. My guest today is Michael Gorton. He's an investor, a 15 times entrepreneur, or as he would call himself, a serial entrepreneur, a Teladoc founder, a best-selling author of a series called Tachyon Tunnel, and most recently, a digital medical home, which he co-wrote with Dr. Jay Sanders about the adventures of telemedicine and how it came to be. He has a passion for building world-changing companies out of ideas, and ideas are something that Michael is never short of. Please welcome to this show, Michael Gorton. Michael, thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure listeners will enjoy it as well. This isn't our first time talking, but certainly we have a lot more to discuss. And I was introduced to you by Dr. Jay Sanders, who was pivotal in the advancement of telemedicine across the United States. And then you guys wrote a book together, and that's how I was introduced to you. And so here we are having this conversation. So maybe give listeners a little insight as to who you are and a little bit about you.
Since you started with Jay Sanders, I'll carry on that.
Okay.
When I first met him, I asked him to help me with Teladoc, and he said no. And we were doing primarily telephone-based medicine. And the reason why it's relevant right now is because over the years, Jay and I have gotten closer and closer so that we have sort of a father and son relationship. And so usually when I haven't talked to him for a while, we're on Zoom calls like you and I are, and I it's like, Dad, how are you doing? I'm well, son. How are you? Yeah, that kind of connection.
Yeah, you can get that when talking with him. He just kind of has that sort of fatherly figure sort of vibe. Yeah, I felt that too.
Jay is a gem. He absolutely is a wonderful person.
And so you ventured off together to write this book, Digital Medical Home, which I've read, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I was just saying, I think it would make a great motion picture telling that story in one form or another. But you guys are already on to a second adventure with this book.
Yes, we are. We decided that we wanted to write a fiction version of it. All the stories are more or less the same, but there was an old TV show, I think it was called Dragnet or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Where the guy in the beginning
I know that
would
one.
say, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. And we will modify that a little bit. The names have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty.
Yeah, I remember that show. And it had a bit of a time travel thing too, didn't it? The Dragnet.
I don't really remember. I just remember that that the guy would always say, the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
To protect.
It was a great line.
Yeah, and it's been used many times over.
I'm sure.
So now take a step back here, because when you met Jay, you were in Teladoc, right? So
That's
take
correct.
us a step.
Yes.
Go back a bit before as to where you started in this in that part of your life.
Teladoc was my 8th startup.
Oh, really?
Like this.
Wow.
And 8. And I fall in that sort of weird category of serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And one of my earlier startups in 2000, the year 2000, early 2000, had a nice liquidity event. I called a bunch of friends and said, I have money. I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. If you want to join my team, I'll pay all your expenses. I'll pay all of your travel, training, everything. And one of the men who joined me was a medical doctor, electrical engineer named Byron Brooks, who said, let's build something together. So while climbing Kilimanjaro, we put together the idea of Teladoc. And had I known how much resistance there was going to be and how many battles we were going to fight, I may have thought twice about it. But once you get started, then you're started. You don't
That's
go
right.
back.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of this video today will be about some of those things that happen, which you read about in the digital medical home book.
That's right. Exactly. And so that was your eighth. So did you know you were going to be a serial entrepreneur after number one, or like at what point were you entrepreneurial like at the get go when you got out of kindergarten or something?
Maybe, and I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
I actually spent a few years working as an electrical engineer for a power company. And I did that until I just decided to transition and become an entrepreneur. I didn't even know the term serial entrepreneur until probably company number 5.
Oh, wow.
When you say the word serial, you think the next word is normally murderer or killer.
Yeah, killer.
It would be one of those. Entrepreneur, that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a good pairing of those two words. And so Teladoc, give listeners just a little insight as to Teladoc and what that provided.
Teladoc was, in the beginning, nobody knew what it was. A lot of people didn't believe you could do it. But now everybody's familiar with it. It is a telephone, a doctor, and an electronic medical record. I'm not feeling well. Rather than calling the doctor's office and waiting until next Thursday, I call into a call center, and 10 minutes later, a doctor calls me back on the phone and diagnoses. It's absolute simplicity. And in healthcare, it's solved what we call the access problem.
Right.
I've got a minor issue. I'm driving in my car. I'm at the office. I'm busy. I don't want to take the time off. The doctor comes to me via now Zoom call, telephone, whatever your platform is that you're comfortable with.
And much like telemedicine, I mean, COVID had a pivotal moment for Teladoc, right? Because all of a sudden the world needed access and they couldn't go anywhere. And that kind of cracked it wide open, didn't it?
It did. One of the former surgeons general sent me a note right as COVID was kicking off and said, essentially, thank you for persisting, because now we have a platform that we can keep doctors talking to patients even in the pandemic.
Right.
And before COVID, most people didn't know what telemedicine was. And Teladoc had, 6-7 million lives on the platform coming into COVID. Now Teladoc has 96 million lives. And that's just
unbelievable.
96 and some of the others. Now Teladoc is still the largest, but the pandemic turned it from something that a few people knew about to something that everybody knows about.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, there was a great post-COVID study that said 87% of the population of the United States now prefers telemedicine for their routine doctor consultations.
Well, I mean, would we even have enough doctors to do it in person if we didn't have it? Like, I don't even think there's so many people that need medical attention, medical advice, just some sort of conversation with a medical professional. In what the populations they are now, particularly the aging population, would we even be able to manage that in person at this point?
I think the number of doctors and the amount of time a doctor spends consulting with a patient, it sort of evens out. The thing that people don't realize is physicians who are practicing telemedicine can make more money charging less than a physician practicing practicing in an office. And
Interesting.
if you want to understand why, think about the tools involved. So the telemedicine tool is really simple. It's a Zoom call like what you and I are doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now imagine that it's the Thursday morning and you have to go to the doctor's office. So you jump in your car, you drive there. There's a building. You walk into the building. There's a waiting room with couches and magazines and an admin at her or his computer and a telephone system and a computer network and doctors and nurses and rooms and equipment. And you may pay $110 for that. You may pay $40 for the telemedicine visit. But when the doctor's done paying all those bills, all those expenses inside that building, the doctor makes a little bit. And
Yeah.
when they pay all their not so many bills in the telemedicine visit, they make a lot more. So
Right.
it's an efficient, it's great for the patient because it happens very fast. It's great for the doctor because they make more money.
So are there doctors that strictly do this remotely and they never go into a physical
They
space
do.
anymore?
We
Interesting.
did we did a financial analysis case study. The doctors who were practicing in the primary care world were working 12 hours a day, 5 and 6 days a week, and they were making about $148,000 a year. I think this was 2004 or 2005 that we did this study.
Wow.
The doctors, so that was 10 hours a day and 148K. If they worked 8 hours a day for us, so 2 hours less, 5 days a week, they could make about 250,000 in the telemedicine world.
Isn't that
So
something?
make
Wow.
a lot more money, a lot less stress.
And then on the patient side, it's a convenience thing. It's accessibility,
Right.
particularly for people who live in remote areas where they
Correct.
don't even have a doctor. And conversations I've had, it's like people in those areas will actually put off going to the doctor, even if they do have problems or ailments or things that should be addressed. They'll put it off because they don't have access to the doctor. They won't be going into the major center for another couple of weeks. And by then that smaller condition may have escalated and is now something much bigger than if it had been addressed weeks before, could have avoided a whole bunch of stuff. So I've heard that from people before, and it's recently too, about that accessibility for people who live in rural areas.
Right. And you just finished reading the digital medical home book. So you'll remember in the very beginning of the book, we talk about a case, which is a real patient named Nelson. And this sort of expands the thinking a little bit, because if you make it simple, you might save some lives.
Yeah.
Because the patient doesn't think it's simple. I mean, the patient thinks it's too hard to go see a doctor. And in that particular case, Nelson wakes up, something's wrong, but he's got an important meeting and he's not going to miss that meeting no matter what. And then he remembers, now what's this telemedicine thing? So this was way back in the beginning. And so he uses his cell phone while he's driving to his meeting, and the doctor says, stop what you're doing, go straight to the ER. Well, his wife had said, call your doctor. And he's like, no, sweetheart, I'm fine. I got an important meeting. But when the doctor said it, it saved his life. And that was, the doctor couldn't treat him, but the doctor listened to his symptoms and said, whoa,
right,
you're in big trouble. Go now. And there's all kinds of cases like that where make it super simple and you'll catch things earlier.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, telemedicine and companies like Teladoc are providing those services, and now people are using them. Like you said, 96 million people. It's incredible that it's gotten to that state. I mean, and that was a big jump from before COVID to now.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And Teladoc is not the largest revenue company in healthcare, but it is the largest patient population company in healthcare. And it is definitely a company that if you're not aware of it, go look it up. What they've done in the last 10, 15 years is pretty extraordinary. They have a brand new CEO there who's also extraordinary. I'm a big fan of his, and I think saving lives is an important part of being a good member of society, and Teladoc is definitely doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you are on to something new now with Recuro, correct?
Yep. Yes, I am.
So you feel like talking about that a little bit? Because
Sure.
that, all these steps brought you to that point, right?
Right.
But my
Right.
understanding when I was reading the book is like you went through this journey through telemedicine and eventually got to where you are now and identified a few other things that
Sure.
needed some repair. So yeah,
And for
tell me about
clarity,
that.
I am a serial entrepreneur. And as we said earlier, not serial killer, serial entrepreneur.
Serial builder.
And there we go. Um, and with Recuro, if you think about what problem did Teladoc really solve, and that was access. You
Right.
now can get a doctor in 10 minutes and it's going to cost less. So that's an access issue. But people are still getting sick, they're still dying. What's the next step? And with Recuro, what we said was, in the beginning, we actually called it Teladoc 2.0. Uh, but
Oh, really?
what we said was, let's catch things early. And
Yeah.
that one went in one ear and out the other. It's actually a Ben Franklin uh, comment, but
Was that
the
a a spinoff of the an apple a day keeps the doctor away?
maybe Franklin said a lot of great things, but
Yeah.
an ounce of prevention is worth a
I thought the
pound
pound.
of cure. In other words, if you can catch it early, it's really easy to fix. And let's use cancer for an example. If you can catch cancer coming into stage one, it's a doctor saying, okay, Heath, change these couple of things, and here's a pill you'll take once a day for 2 weeks and you're done. You catch cancer at stage four, the doctor is saying, you're going to need chemo, you're going to need radiation, you're going to need surgery, your life is going to change, you're probably going to die. Ounce of prevention catches it early, fixes it easily.
Right.
Pound of cure is chemo at stage four. And
Yeah.
so, but how do you do that? Because
Yeah,
look out,
exactly.
you walk down the city street and you see musicians and athletes and engineers, and they don't know healthcare like the doctors do. And they don't have
No.
time to learn healthcare like the doctors do. So we have to be thinking out front and not making people build electronic circuits every time they watch TV. They just pick up a remote control and press some
Turn
buttons and they get to
turn it
watch whatever
on.
they
Yeah.
want. And that's
Yeah.
what we need to be doing with healthcare. Make it super simple, make it catch the things early. Right
Hmm.
now, we're on a Zoom call. What if that camera could be diagnosing as we're doing the phone call? Now, it doesn't have to
Yes,
be. We could press
exactly.
a switch so that it could be diagnosing. I'm actually working with a company that's doing something like that right now called Sense Eye.
Sense.
This kind
Oh,
of
wow. So it's scanning the
SENSE.
iris. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. It's
yeah,
scanning
they're
the
doing
eye.
they're watching eye movement, blink, pupil
Oh, wow.
dilation, and they can diagnose things. And that's pretty spectacular. So
Yeah.
how do we catch things? Well, we start using the tools a little better.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and by using the tools, we catch things early, and by catching things early, we fix a big part of healthcare. Why are costs rising? Because chemo, radiation, surgery at stage four is very expensive. A doctor consulting saying change your diet, not so expensive.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, and then also, too, I think this was brought up when I was talking to Dr. Sanders was that, when you start bringing in technology such as AI as well, and you start collecting that data. So, like you said, collecting data that's coming in from the eye and sensing that information and collecting it and processing it and assimilating it and giving giving back feedback, you're now speeding up that process of like, what is wrong, what's not consistent with the way this person was 6 months previously. So you're now creating a history, a digital history of somebody, right?
Right. The things that are coming, the technology, the AI, the biochemistry, it's getting better and better all the time.
Yeah, and it's what did somebody say, the science fiction of yesterday is the science of today.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because we used to dream about this stuff as kids, right? We would watch television shows and they would scan people and repair them in real time in the moment, and beam you up to the medical deck, and the automation would take over and fix it. But we're actually almost there.
Yep.
And that'll freak a lot of people out, but it's also quite exciting.
A cool side story. Some of your audience will recognize the name Buzz Aldrin because he walked on the moon with Neil Armstrong. In fact, that's him right there.
Oh, there he is. Okay, right over your shoulder.
And Buzz became an advisor to Teladoc. He was very helpful. He knew nothing about medicine, but Buzz was so important to the growth of Teladoc because there wasn't a person on the planet who wouldn't take his phone call. And so when nobody knew who we were and we wanted to talk to the president of such and such, Buzz would make the phone call. But I remember, to your point about technology and Buzz said he would always hold up his phone, and this was like 8 years ago. He would say, "This thing is more powerful than all the computers on the planet." When he went to the moon, all the computers on the planet combined, this thing all by itself is more powerful. And that is, think of the things we can do with our smartphone, and we never
it's
would
incredible.
have dreamed. I mean, who has an encyclopedia in their house anymore? You don't need it.
No, I mean, they used to tell us in school, you better learn your math and your times table because you're not going to be able to carry a calculator around with you every day, everywhere you go. But actually, I can just talk out loud and ask for a calculation.
I know.
And it'll give it to me.
Exactly right.
So go back to Recuro. What is your Recuro doing?
Recuro is doing exactly what I just said. Let's build the engine that catches things early. And so you have to start simple. And the first thing we started doing with Recuro was saying, we need simplicity. How do we catch things? There was a really good case that we used to look at, and it was a medical doctor who was a friend of mine who called me and said, "Got bad news. I'm dying of cancer." And I always thought about, okay, wait a minute, how does a medical doctor get to stage 4 before? And the reality is, I said that to her, and what she said was, I'm really busy. I got a practice. I got my husband. I got kids. I got all the activities of life, and I just didn't take the time. Well, how do we make it so that you take the time? And if a lab could arrive on your front door tomorrow and you prick your finger or pee in a cup or whatever you have to do for that lab and put it back on the porch and FedEx comes and gets it the next day, that's super simple. And that's the way Recuro is thinking about this. How can we get the very beginnings of the super simple? What I talked about a minute ago with the Zoom camera is something that's a couple of years down the road. It's being tested now, but it's not ready yet. And but what we can do now is we can figure out how do we get a lab into the home and make it really easy so the patient doesn't have to do anything. And so that's what Recuro is doing, is trying to find that cutting edge of the super simple.
Is that including like devices that are recording things like, everyone's put their health watch on their wrist and it's collecting my heart rate and it's collecting my blood pressure and whatever else? Is that the kind of thing? So it's kind of a way to collect information so that it's easy for people that it almost automated in the sense that it's being collected and stored and and processed, right?
Yep.
And then if there's something that's so that information is all coming in, and then something is triggered that it's not, something's wrong.
Right.
Some blood work is off, or something's been identified, your blood pressure has been too high for too long, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
That's when your Recuro would sort of the doctor would be alerted, and that patient would be contacted or alerted, or else automatically alerted to the condition that's been going on, and even though
Yep.
they may not have identified it themselves.
But it could also be just routine stuff, you know.
Right.
I don't know. You nodded when I said the name of the TV show Dragnet, so I'm just going to make the
Yeah.
assumption that you're over 40. It could be wrong, and I
Yeah.
apologize if I
No.
am.
Yeah.
But you know, once you
For
turn
sure.
40, the most dreaded thing for all of you out there who are younger than 40 is the colonoscopy.
Oh yeah.
You
Been
know,
there. I do it all the time.
and you know, it is a dreaded part of the life cycle as we
Yeah.
age, and a lot of people skip it, and because they skip it, they end up with colon cancer, which is not a good thing. There is a great company that does something called Cologuard. It doesn't require that colonoscopy. And Recuro is pioneering delivery of that Cologuard to people who want to not have that nightmare night before and day of. And so those are the kinds of things that you have to constantly be looking for. Because as I said, you know, the average person is the musician and the engineer and the ditch digger, and we don't know about healthcare that much. We need somebody to make it so simple that it just comes to us.
And it's a
And
complicated system,
yeah,
the healthcare system, isn't it?
yep,
It's
yep,
tough to navigate, particularly when you get into a situation where you actually have a disease or a condition that needs to be treated. And the idea is to avoid that
yeah.
entirely,
And
right?
and by avoiding it, you make a significant transformation in the cost of healthcare. So it seems
Yes.
crazy that you would send a lab to somebody's home. That sounds expensive, but
Yeah.
it's 1,000 times cheaper than what happens after that doctor says, "I'm sorry to tell you, you have stage 4X." And and so you can send a lot of Cologuards to people's homes, catch things early, and make lives so much better, and the cost of care go down.
So is this like a mobile lab unit like you're talking about? Is that what
That's
it's
what that's what that particular thing is. But that's just another example.
interesting.
The thing that
Yeah.
Recuro is constantly doing is looking for the engines that catch things early. The way we used to say it is, let's catch
Mm-hmm.
things before they get expensive and dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Catch them before they get expensive and dangerous, and you're helping the patients and you're helping the system.
I just spoke with somebody from a company that does has a unit that can be a mobile breast exam, and that could be used, and not being used in the United States right now, but is potentially being used in other countries that have different standards. But until the FDA approves it, then they're using it in remote places in lower income countries that are experiencing high levels of breast cancer. So, and they've got a mobile unit that does it, and it's a completely hands-free process. So these things are coming.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see what's happening.
And some of them are on your wrist right now. I mean, a significant percentage of
Right.
the population has smartwatches. Those smartwatches are constantly watching pulse rate, oxygen level, all kinds of pulling in all kinds of data. And what happens to that data? Nothing. You look at
Nothing.
it and you go, okay, that's a cool
It's super
chart.
valuable
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
And the
So,
reality is, if you combine that data with AI and a potential medical doctor, then you can start using just the smartwatch to catch things. And that's at no cost.
right.
One of my favorite sort of funny stories is about 3 Christmases ago. The last gift I gave to my wife, she opens up and it's a scale. one of the ones you step on to find your weight.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that you nailed it. I mean, the husbands of the world will know you want to find a fast way to die. Give your wife a scale. The next thing you
Exactly.
know, it's flying at your forehead and you're dead. Except, we both love data, and there's $50 scales you can buy on Amazon. You stand on them for 30 seconds in your bare feet, and it'll give you 15 biometric data points, and
No
and that's
kidding.
super
Wow.
cheap. And all you have to do is, take your shower or use the bathroom or whatever and stand on it. And all of that data gets transferred up to your smartphone. And then your smartphone can move it into the cloud where AI looks at it. And now it starts building trend lines. And if it starts seeing things that are unusual, it pings your doctor
Yeah.
and pings you and says, hey, what happened? What changed on this particular day? And
Yeah.
I guarantee you within 10 years, we are going to be able to diagnose a significant percentage of the things that are killing people today with tools as simple as a smartwatch or a scale in your bathroom.
So that data, if we're thinking future, that data gets collected. So I'm wearing my smartphone, I got this, I'm getting my eyes scanned when I'm visiting my doctor or whatever. All that data is being collected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, so if it's in a subscription based software and it's been stored on a server, I own it. I log in, I can look at all my data, look at my history, look at my research, look at the information that's being collected, any feedback, suggestions. Oh, maybe start eating more of this or less of this, or add some vitamin D, or those kinds of things. And I can own it. Is that right?
Yep.
Like it would be all my
Yep.
information,
Yep.
right?
You can do whatever you want with
That's
it. It could stay, where nobody sees it, or it could get pushed somewhere where AI sees
and
it,
you can
or
right, and you can assign it to your doctor. Say, no, this is my doctor. Here's his contact information,
mhm.
and it could be processing and sending that data off to the doctor on a regular
The
basis.
thing that Jay Sanders will tell you, and he may have said it on your podcast, is if you go to the doctor, some nurse puts a cuff on your arm, pumps it up, and says 120 over 70, you're good.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think Jay very correctly says that is a meaningless data point because it is not the blood pressure today; it's the trend line over time. That's
yes,
what gets significant. And if you're going to your doctor once a year, it's not enough data. And the doctor
or once
doesn't
every
have
5 years.
time to look at the data. That's why you put an
No,
AI bot in there to watch trend lines. And when it sees something
yeah.
alarming, it notifies you and your doctor, and then you can go in for more testing. That's the way to catch things early.
So how far away from that?
No, we're there
Being able
now.
to,
We're there now.
we're
You
there
can
now.
you can do that kind
Okay,
of thing now, and
okay,
we're not at the point where we can diagnose from that platform because diagnosis typically requires FDA approval, and that takes time. But there are a
right.
lot of companies that are trying to look at a combination of blood oxygen and pulse rate as a function of time of day and blood pressure and all the different biometric factors that you can get from a smartwatch and a bathroom scale and and what you're going to see, I think, as we go into the 10 to 15 years from now is we'll be able to diagnose most ailments early on.
Right.
um, and then it's just the doctor saying change your diet, and then a lot of people won't. they'll still
Right.
they'll still eat whatever
But
it is the doctor says don't. But
we know there's a certain percentage of the population that believes or that buys into prevention and will take that up. But I mean, I think particularly if you get something from an email or a text from your doctor saying, please add vitamin D to your supplement
mhm,
program based on your recent blood work that we got from the mobile lab unit that came by your house. Oh, okay. I'm going to go. Well, that really, like you said, makes that very simple.
yeah,
Why wouldn't I listen to that? Why wouldn't
mhm,
I hear that? Right. Even if I
yeah,
didn't really, um, I wasn't a particularly healthy, I don't exercise on a regular basis, but it's something as simple as adding something like a supplement.
mhm,
Why wouldn't someone do that?
right,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah.
So, where's Recuro at now, and what's next for you?
Now, Recuro has been growing like crazy. I stepped out of Recuro a year and a half ago, and
Oh, okay.
so I've been playing and helping early growth stage companies and writing books and having the time of my life. I'm still working the 60 hours a week, but I don't know.
Does it feel like
No.
work?
And it didn't,
No.
it didn't, at Recuro, I was probably working 75 hours a week. And for the most
Right.
part, it didn't feel like.
So you talk about writing. You're an author, 9 books.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your writing history.
The first couple books I wrote were political thrillers. It was just, I gotta get this story out of my head or my brain is gonna blow up. And so we just write it. But then I did a lot of writing for thought leadership and to help inspire people and to help transform the way people were thinking about things. Um, when I left Recuro, I wrote a sci-fi that was just supposed to be a one-off. It is called Tachyon Tunnel, and it started catching on. And people said, "You got to write a sequel to this." So, um, in March, I published the sequel to it, and that book, since March, has sold more books than all of the rest of my books combined. And
Wow.
so now, I've now hired a publicist to work with me, and this is a part-time thing. I do this, 5 to 10 hours a week, but
Right.
I have a great publicist named Lynn McGinnis, and Lynn gives me assignments, and I get them done every week. And I think the goal is to have book 3 of that series done in late September, early October, and book 4 around this time next year, and then try and get a Netflix series out of it. And
Yeah.
I think it is. So, what was Teladoc fundamentally? It was an innovation. It was, let's take an idea and turn it into something that's simple and easy for people to touch and understand. And that's what the book is essentially. Uh, as a scientist who loves science fiction, I see all these different ways we're going to travel in the future, whether it's rocket engines or things that go into black holes, and uh, it just have a slightly different perspective about the universe and travel and time,
Right.
and that's what the Tachyon Tunnel series is. It's some great adventures. It's some romance. It's people interacting, and it's hardcore science that's made super simple so everybody can understand it.
People who like science fiction, I think, have a way of want to see the world, that there are other
Yeah,
dimensions,
yeah,
there are other universes, there are other planets. I think that's probably fundamentally to everybody who's a science fiction fan, is that's a vision. It's something that you can kind of embrace, right? I'm a science fiction freak. I was 10 years old when Star Wars came out, and it blew
yeah,
my
yeah.
mind. It's and I've been a science fiction
So
addict ever since.
Star
So
Wars it's just pure story, right?
sure,
Star Trek, and it's so funny to me. A lot of people, always go Star Trek or Star Wars, and they're really
yeah,
very different.
they're so
Star
different.
Trek is the things they did in Star Trek we're actually doing now. There were so many
Yeah,
innovations. I mean, Motorola named their
yeah,
their flip phone after this Star Trek communicator. But one of the things I think is really interesting is people are very focused on, is there alien life? Do other civilizations exist out there? And when I did my graduate work in physics, it was something called plasma physics. And to me, then it was just all numbers, magnetic fields, electromagnetics. It was all math and creating shapes. Now, plasma physics has become the realm of where probably we will find intelligence. The entire universe is plasma. we are this little speck of dust called Earth, where there's these organic life forms that are super fragile, and we live 100 years. Plasma exists forever, and what we've seen in the last 10, 12 years is that plasma on a large scale is self-organizing, and it there. But on a smaller scale, there's been really interesting things that we've seen. There's a great video of a ball lightning that entered an airplane in flight, and it went down the aisle, stopping at places and then continued and then left the airplane. There are, people, some of the passengers told the story, and there were videos of it, and people were like, it was like it was stopping and looking and observing. And the current generation of plasma physicists is saying that plasma, not on that small a scale, but maybe that's like a probe. How much
Mm.
intelligence could
Hmm.
be in that thing? Not that much, but it's collecting data. And
Hmm.
but when you think about how much can we think with the neurons that are inside this head, and then expand it, the entire universe is plasma. And if the plasma can communicate with plasma, that then the whole universe is like a brain, and it's
Yeah.
just bizarre to think about. But I think that's one of the things I start in this tachyon tunnel science fiction book, that is, you're going to see a lot of sci-fi start adopting this in the coming years.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of stories are adapting quantum physics, right?
Yeah.
And that years ago, quantum physics wasn't something that everybody talked about, and now it becomes something it's mentioned in almost every science fiction storyline of some sort, because it's a place where things go and come back from, and it's almost like they're using it as a way to explain time travel,
Yeah.
for example. But that's interesting
It's
to be used.
Quantum is really funny because everybody knows the name of Albert Einstein. So
Uh,
here's the simplest definition of quantum for all the non-scientists out there. It's the billions and quadrillions of little tiny particles. How do you calculate what they're going to do? It's really hard to do, and it is so hard that you can't use calculus and algebra and geometry. You have to use probability and statistics. Everything
right.
else in physics, you can use calculus and algebra and geometry. If I drop a rock, I can tell you 100% of the time how it's going to land, how much noise. But in quantum, you're sort of guessing. You're accurate a big percentage of the time. So going back to Einstein, Einstein in the beginning was not a quantum physics buff. He said his famous line is, "I cannot believe that God played dice with the universe." That's how he analyzed quantum physics, because
Quantum physics. Oh,
dice
really?
is probability and statistics, right? That's how
Right.
you do the math for quantum. But what a cool word, quantum. It belongs in
Quantum.
every
Yeah.
sci-fi novel, right?
It's totally. And I think I read somewhere somebody said quantum physics is the science is science has tried to prove it doesn't exist, and they haven't been able to. And they also can't prove, the other scientists can't prove that it
Does,
does
yeah.
exist. Therefore, they have to acknowledge that it's there, because
Yeah.
they can't prove they can't prove it doesn't exist. And that's the whole point of science, is to prove that something doesn't work, as opposed to how it does work.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a funny
We
comment.
need better math.
Um,
Eventually, it'll happen. Maybe AI will develop a better math system for us.
it probably will.
Yeah,
Yeah, it probably will.
yeah,
Now, speak on the subject of science and space. You are onto something else too,
yeah,
aren't you? There's
yeah.
another. You have another
That
project, Phantom Space.
I am really fortunate to be working with a company called Phantom Space, and the founders of Phantom Space were the first employees at SpaceX. And there's this wonderful story. If you've read the Elon Musk book, and I almost hate to say Elon's name these days because some people really hate him, and so but for those of you who really hate him,
he's
just listen to the
he's
story.
not he's not trending
Yeah,
anymore, so
yeah.
he's not the favorite.
And so um, wind the clock back to early 2001, before 9/11, and there's this guy named Jim Cantrell who's really well known in the space industry, and he happens to speak French and Russian because he did projects in the United States, France, and Russia. And he's driving in his convertible. Now, roll back to the kind of cell phones we had back then. He, top down in the convertible, he sees his cell phone ring. He doesn't recognize the number, so he doesn't answer it. And it rings again, and it rings again, and it rings again. And finally, he answers it, and he's like, "Who the blank is this?" And of course, it's noisy. He thinks the guy says his name is Aaron Moss, and he wants to build rockets to go to Mars. That was the beginning of SpaceX. And
That's the beginning of it. Wow.
Jim Cantrell brought Elon to Russia because in the beginning, the thinking was nobody could build rockets. Therefore, we just go buy Russian rockets, strap them all together, and have one giant rocket. And when the Russians basically spit on Elon, for those of you who hate Elon, then maybe you agree with the Russians back then. But when they came back, Elon said, "Let's build our own rockets," and that was such a preposterous proposal.
Who says that?
Nations
Yeah.
built rockets, not
Not
individuals. And of course, last year SpaceX launched more rockets than everybody else combined. And
Yeah.
so, I guess they've proven. But what Cantrell and his team is doing is the SpaceX rockets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so fundamentally, they are the giant 747s of the rocket world. And now you need the smaller things to get to more precise places. And that's what Phantom
Oh,
is
I
doing.
see.
And and then once they start delivering those rockets, the way they're thinking next generation is put data centers in space. So all of us that are using AI may not realize that our AI request is not happening here on the cell phone level. It's going out to a 6 million square foot facility that's burning, hundreds of megawatt hours of power. And uh, if you can put those data centers in outer space rather than down on the ground in Nevada or West Texas,
Oh my God, that's
yeah, it's
brilliant.
brilliant. And
It's
people
brilliant.
think, oh,
It's cold
yeah,
up there.
exactly.
You don't need to cool them down.
And you have infinite solar power to power them, running at DC rather
Oh
than
my
AC.
God, that is
And
absolutely
and
brilliant.
the other thing is people go, well, space is really far away, and how do you get the wires? And when I live in a really nice home that was built in 2006, and in my when I was talking to the builder, I needed Ethernet in every
Ethernet,
wall. I needed cable TV. I needed
cable,
cell phones.
coax
Yeah,
cable. Yeah,
and
everything.
I don't use any of that anymore. It's all wireless now. And
Yeah.
and if you're in New York City right now, your data center is probably in West Texas or Nevada. When you press enter on that keyboard from New York City, it goes through every 15 miles or so. There's a little power repeater boosting the signal all the way out to West Texas, and then all the way back. If your data center is in outer space, no fiber optic. It's just a up down 300 miles
Up and down.
Not
no mountains to go through. No concrete walls
nothing,
to go through.
Nothing.
No, exactly.
And when I first heard that SpaceX was going to be putting the internet in space, even as a futurist and an innovator, I thought that's a stupid idea. That'll never work. And now Starlink is cheaper and more reliable than most internet services. And to quote the great Kathy Wood, who is one of the great investment thinkers of our time, a few weeks ago I was on a call and she said, the scientists in Antarctica now have faster internet than most people in the United States. And think about that. How do you
Hmm.
get internet to
Hmm.
Antarctica? Starlink.
Satellite.
No,
Wow.
no.
That's crazy. Because I mean, I was reading about phantom space and I saw that there was satellites
Yep.
going up, but I didn't make the connection about putting AI up there.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
I think that's
it is
brilliant.
brilliant. All the
Wow.
blockchain, all the AI will be in space in 15
All of
years.
it. All of it. Wow.
And all of the internet or most of the internet will also be space based.
Up there. Wow. It makes perfect
Hmm.
sense when you
It
think
does.
about it, actually. Wow. You are truly a science fiction.
I'm having fun.
What would I call you? Oracle. Oracle.
Thanks.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so that's your newest
Yeah,
project. That's pretty
yeah. It's
exciting,
very cool.
Michael. That's
It's
great.
very cool.
Well, I've really enjoyed chatting with you again and hearing more about this. Before we wrap up, let's come back full circle to healthcare and tell me what where are you seeing some of the other issues in healthcare, some things that need fixing,
Yeah.
or some new more innovation that needs to come
Well,
along?
I think that there needs to be a lot more doors opened for entrepreneurial thinking in the healthcare space because the biggest challenge we had at Teladoc wasn't the delivery of new ideas, it was the resistance to change. And um,
Wow.
and we can't get perfection. What we can get is we can get faster delivery of innovation. And by doing that, people will still die, but I think at a much lower rate. And,
Right.
um, there are so many great ideas out there that never make it to the market because the FDA process is so slow and so expensive. And that is something we've got to fix. There are
Hmm.
so many innovators that never get through the existing bureaucracy, even if they don't need FDA, because we've always done it this way. We can't do it that
Right.
way.
Right. Right.
And those are the things that we all need to collectively get together and 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 make happen. And I think the political right was probably really happy. Oh, we've got this new president. He's going to do these new things, and then the next um, president from the political left will come along, and they'll all say, "Oh, we're going to be happy because." And the reality is, we as a people have to all get together and say, "We've got to
Hmm.
fix these things," and I think it's such a big challenge. I don't necessarily have a real solution, but those of us who want to be the innovators have to drop our politics and say, okay, I don't care. Let's figure out how do we get rid of the bureaucracy because that's really our biggest enemy right now. Is
Hmm.
I was talking to a friend this morning who believes in perfection, and I kept saying, look, it, perfection is the enemy of success. If you spend all your time trying to make it perfect, you'll never be able to make a decision because we're humans. We can't get anything perfect. What we have to do
No,
is we have to make a decision, run as fast as we can, and if we see it's a mistake, step back and fix it.
I think you're right. I mean, these processes were put in place for a reason, obviously, but times have changed. Everything's changed. People have changed. Technology's changed. We can't do things. Usually, when you find out that there is a problem, you can't. You have to. You you can't fix it by doing the same
Yeah.
thing. You have to change it
Hmm.
by trying something
Yeah.
different. And so, but the resistance to change
It
is
is.
real. And you're right. It is a barrier to success. However, persistence is
Yeah.
probably the cure.
Persistence.
And that's usually what.
Persistence always wins. It's frustrating for those of us who have to be persistent all the time, but you just learn to live
Yeah.
with it.
You put a smile on your
Yeah,
face,
exactly.
pick up a good book when you got the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
and get up tomorrow and try
exactly
again.
right.
Well, you've got a tremendous amount of persistence, a tremendous amount of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. So I really thank you for spending time with me today and sharing your journeys and your stories. And yeah, I hope to hear more soon about what you're going to be doing with Phantom Space and everything else, and your upcoming books. I'll be watching. I'm going to have to get dug into your
Yeah.
series now, because I've read Digital Medical Health, but I'm going to have to get onto
All
that one
right.
now
Well,
too.
good. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
So thank you very much again for your time. Any last thoughts? Anything
I
that we didn't talk about that
I
you'd
think
like to
to the
share?
extent that anybody in your audience listening, has some innovative ideas and they want some help or they want to bounce it, I'm happy. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay. Is there? What are any? Do you have a website or anything?
Yeah,
Again,
michaelgorton.us is my website. Pretty easy.
Okay, perfect. So there you go, LinkedIn and michaelgorton.us. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and appreciate your time today. And
Okay.
we'll talk again.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that was a great conversation. I hope you kept track of that. If not, I suggest you go back and listen to it again. I think I'm going to have to as well. We covered a lot of subject matter. We talked about telemedicine, teledoc, plasma physics, quantum physics, phantom space, tachyon tunnels, the digital medical home. There's a lot going on in that head of his. But one thing we do agree on is that simplifying healthcare is going to lead to better patient outcomes, reduced costs, and healthcare innovation does face some significant bureaucratic hurdles. But regardless of that, Gorton encourages collaboration among innovators to overcome those challenges, and he's seeking those solutions now. So if you've got some good ideas, reach out to Michael, and I'm sure he'd love to hear about them. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and please stay healthy and take care.